Hi guys, welcome to the next session that we've got today, which is on content creation 2020 to 2025. This is going to be an amazing session with some fantastic panelists, all about what the next 5 years hold for the content creator and influencer industry. Now, a little bit about myself, I guess. My name's Maka Sharifi. I am a content creator. 5 years ago, if you asked me what I would have probably said a blogger. And then I transformed into an influencer, and now I'm a content creator. And in 5 years' time, I don't know what I'll be, but it's essentially all the same thing. However, my job has changed so much over the past 5 years. I used to just create blogs, and now I do social media every day. I'm creating videos for clients on trips. You know, I'm sharing all of this content to all of these people. That the job is so different to what it was 5 years ago. Just kind of like almost moving forward for the next 5 years, I think it's important to think about where we've come from. So I'm just going to rustle through some stats here, going back. So in 2014, there were 6.7 million blogs worldwide. A blog post was about 800 words. You know, it took me about 2 hours to create, which isn't the case anymore. Facebook, 829 million users per month. Instagram, a wee 200 million. Twitter was 288. YouTube, 1 billion users. Who remembers Vine? The good old days of Vine. That was alive and well. G+ apparently was going to fight Facebook head to head. And of course, one of the stats that I love, in 2013, 45% of videos uploaded to YouTube were of pet or animal videos. So, I mean, I used to be a huge fan of Grumpy Cat. 2019, it's changed. 600 million blogs worldwide. Blog posts are longer, they take longer to create. Facebook's up to 2.45 billion users. Instagram's over 1 billion users per month. Twitter hasn't grown, but a tiny bit. YouTube, 2 billion users per month. Both Vine and Google Plus are dead. Long live TikTok, that's new and alive. And apparently, 1 billion hours of YouTube videos are watched per day, which is more than Netflix and Facebook video combined. A few other stats that I absolutely love, just to show you where we are in 2019. Over 2 billion blog posts are published every year worldwide, which is approximately 4,000 blog posts published every minute. According to Ahrefs, who are a search engine data company, they have said that how to start a blog is Googled 121,000 times per month worldwide, so nearly 4,000 people are considering starting a blog every day. Also, another stat which is, I think, amazing, 322% more bloggers promoted their content with paid ads in 2018 compared to 2014. And that just goes to show how much the industry is constantly changing and evolving. And as content creators, we always have to constantly change and evolve with it. So to drive the conversation forward, we have some fantastic panelists here. We have Ben from Sorted Food. They are a huge YouTube channel of 2.3 million subscribers, a huge team producing fantastic food and travel content. We have Michael, who is the co-founder of Traverse Events. They are a travel and marketing and events company who put on conferences all around the world. And then we have Lisa, who is the founder of Boom Creative Labs, which are a kind of social media and influencer agency producing some fantastic creative campaigns all around the world. So Ben, if you'd like to come up first, and then hopefully we'll be able to hear what you have to say. Of course, just we've got the Slido conversation in the top. So if you have any questions, please log on and ask them on Slido. Hopefully we'll be getting through these presentations about 10 minutes per person, and then, of course, asking lots of questions at the end.
Thank you very much.
All yours, Ben.
Good afternoon. So before we get on to the question in hand of what content is going to look like in Influencers 2025, probably should give you some context about Sorted so that we know what page we're on. As of 2019, Google described us as one of the world's largest food and cooking communities. And we quite like that word community. I'm going to come back to it in just a second. It's based around myself and fellow co-founders. We've known each other for over 20 years. We met at school when we were 11. And that friendship, the childhood school friendship, is what kind of is the backbone to everything we do. We've expanded into a team, about 15 or so. We operate out of a studio in East London, literally 20 minutes from here. But the most important thing is that from that studio, we have a conversation with the world. Over 2.5 million foodies across various social platforms in every country, from just about every culture. And collectively, they have amassed, as of last month, 500 million sorted video views. But the real beauty is not the numbers, it's the fact that it's peer-to-peer. There is no us and them. We are them, they are us. It's kind of a mutual connection that we have. We all grew up with social media in the same kind of way, and we all use it in a very similar way. And that's kind of the beauty. I think sometimes we hear lots of dirty C words spread around. Clients, customers, consumers, even channels. We like to consider ourselves a conversation and a community. And that's kind of where we see everything that we do. And it started around a pub table. And I want for a moment you to think about your own pub table. On Friday night, if you were to invite your 4 best friends to sit around that pub table with you, who would they be? I can guarantee everybody sitting in this room will be having a different group of people around the table, but they will all have the same values. There'll be people who make you laugh. There'll be people who you trust, who are loyal and reliable. You won't have to pay them to be there and keep you company, and you've never had to buy them. They've grown organically. That's what a friendship is, and that's what we put as the backbone of the sorted community. A genuine friendship and community. We do a few things. We try to explore relationships with food, past, present, and the future. We like to build trust and loyalty so that we can mutually share what we all learn and discover. I tell you now, we learn as much from our audience as they do, hopefully, from us. And perhaps most relevant today, we like to make your local food global. Travel unlocks amazing adventures, and that can be part of the conversation. But we do it all with one aim, and that's to be your best friend in food. So that's sorted in a nutshell. But the key is, what is an influencer? Because that's what we're here to talk about today. And by definition, somebody, a group of people or a brand with a direct, large access to develop a trusted and valuable relationship with a niche consumer. That's what the dictionary says. By that definition, sorted are definitely influencers, but we do not consider ourselves influencers. We're content creators. The influencers are the 10 million people who actively and voluntarily choose to engage with our content every single month, because they have the voice. They're the ones that will share the opinions on the brands, the key messaging, the food, the dishes, the destinations that we're talking about. They have the influence, and ultimately we can always learn more from them than we can know ourselves. So we let them steer the conversation. Now we have a kind of a trademark approach. We talk into a fridge, and it's a little bit crazy, but the point is we let the audience decide. We let them steer. That's like our wardrobe into the world of Narnia, except it's a portal with direct access to talk to millennials who have opinions and attitudes and all sorts of matter of information around whatever topic we're looking at. And we say that if you listen to them and engage with them and let them steer, not for the sake of letting them steer, but genuinely follow their lead, then ultimately you end up in some crazy places, uncovering some crazy stories. And those are the stories you want to share around a pub table. And we've had some pretty good success in the last couple of years around destination marketing, where tourism boards, airlines, automotive companies, you name it, they can unlock travel. The friendship that we have is the backbone to the content. The food is the catalyst that keeps the conversation evolving. And the passionate people behind the food provides the emotive hook. And this video should capture some of that movement.
Although on screen, Sorted is fronted by 5 guys, we've actually grown into a huge community of foodies contributing ideas, opinions and stories which we then explore in our videos.
That's amazing! This particular place was recommended to us by our flight attendant, Matt.
One of the things we picked up on was that, as with us, people were becoming increasingly frustrated finding authentic, individual food and travel experiences. So, we analysed 8 years of eating and travelling together and came up with a blueprint for better experiences. Our Lost and Hungry rules.
I love a formula and I think it's working.
Never go anywhere or eat anything unless it's a local recommendation.
Blue Star Donuts, probably one of the highest recommendations we've had since we've been in the city.
Good.
Say yes. You never know what situations you might end up in.
We would like to invite you to our wedding.
People are super passionate about sharing their food culture, so trust them. And pass it on. Find ways to share and spread the stories of other people doing great things in food and try and give back in some way.
The next person who walks into a shop needs to have this. I'll go and leave one of these behind the counter so that they just give it to the next person.
And whilst we absolutely appreciate the value of views, reach, and engagement, we think high quality, useful stuff gets noticed, and aiming to be more effective to real people is the best route, and all other successes come as a result. People are now documenting their stories using Lost and Hungry rules, and together with our community, we'll keep testing and exploring so we can all travel and eat that little bit smarter.
So to quickly wrap up before we get on to the other speakers and Q&A, this is the Holy Grail. We're trying to do it now, but really 2025, this will be ideal if we can get there. I think so much of the industry is still looking for reach. How many eyeballs will see this content? Of course it has a value. But the clever people are looking at engagement. How much time are people spending with this content? Are they engaging with it through likes and comments or shares? Or even better, are they engaging with the content before we even pick up a camera by helping to steer the conversation, choose the locations, ask the questions that we're going to ask the locals and the experts when we get there? But I think the real holy grail, and the thing that everybody is kind of aiming for, is effectiveness. And that very simply is, what will this community undertake? Any action, some action in the real world as a result of engaging in the content that's reached them. Now that might be just changing behaviours about a certain dish or ingredient or a topic around food. We do a lot of food, the future of food, whether that's edible insects or the gut biome or personalised nutrition. Maybe you can just start to build awareness so that people, when they're in the supermarket, might make a different decision. Or perhaps it's about physically going to a city, whether they live there or they're travelling there, and retracing some of the steps that our community have helped us unlock and going to the same places. Maybe that's effective. Maybe they even choose the destination because of what they've seen. We aim to make sure that our audience have all the tools that they need to be able to access this information so that we can be their best friend in food. I'm sure there's 101 questions and that we can get to those in just a moment. But for you, Mecca?
I hope the microphone works. Yeah, you can hear me? Cool. This is going to be the much more boring part of the presentation, so just a little warning to you there. What we did before this talk over the last couple of weeks is put out a big survey. We surveyed around 200 different content creators, predominantly from the travel industry, from our network and also from other networks. And what we were doing in this survey is looking back predominantly to around 2016. We did a little bit of a pre-question, and that's where we found that most people who could kind of answer this with some authority were already active. So we didn't want to ask people questions about 2014 when they only started their blogs in 2017 or 2016. So I'm going to present to you some of the results from that in a moment. Just to let you know, the slides I've got up here, some of them, the text is quite small, and some of it's quite informative. I'm going to email it to everyone next week. So everyone who's here, I've got your information. I'm just going to pop you a quick email with this on. So don't worry about trying to scribble loads of shit down or take photos. Obviously do if you want to. But mainly what I'm going to do is kind of talk you through this as a bit of a summary. And as I said, then you'll have all the more information from it in the next week or so. And on that point, we're actually going to be doing 3 or 4 more surveys, and hopefully in the first 3 months of next year, we're going to produce a really big report. So it's not just going to be about where content's going. We're going to be looking at where the financial side of working with content creators is going, where the professionalism's going, everything like that. So we want to produce this really big report, and again, anybody who wants it, I can email it to you. Something just before this, because I sent this presentation over last week, some numbers that I found quite interesting. We ran an event on Friday called Traverse Mingle. It's an event we do every year before WTM. We've done it 7 times now. I think a few people are still a bit hungover from it, judging by the ones I was chatting to this morning. And when we did it in 2014, I look back today, and there were around 560 photos from this evening of around 200 people posted on Instagram. Instagram is how much bigger? Like 4 times bigger now than it was in 2014, right? There was 56 pictures posted from last Friday. That just shows you how much this one platform is changing. Instagram used to be a social network. Personally, with the exception of Instagram stories, which is obviously half of it, it's not. I don't feel it is anymore. How many people in this room would post a selfie of them, having a beer with their mates on Instagram now, compared to who would have done it 5 years ago? So that's just one of the big changes. Even though people have got other platforms still there, it's still the same. So anyway, I've only got about 8 minutes, so I'm going to rush through some of this now. This is just a little bit about me. I'm one of the co-founders of Traverse. I've been working in travel for in 10 years across different roles. I wanted to put something interesting about me on there, but there isn't a lot, so I just put what beer I like. And then my contact details. As I said, I'm going to be emailing everyone after this, so don't worry about jotting anything down. If you want our websites or any information, I can let you know. This is a little bit about Traverse. So we actually founded Traverse 7 years ago tomorrow. To be the exact date, that was around a pub table with Paul, my co-founder. That's where all the good ideas come from. Well, hopefully good ideas. We run conferences, events, campaigns, all sorts of stuff, seminars at WTM. Our main event, our flagship event, Traverse 19 last year, which was in Trentino, is the largest in Europe for content creators in the travel industry. We're not specifically proud of that because I don't think bigger is better when it comes to these events, but it's nice to know still. And unlike a lot of generic platforms, we don't just go based off numbers. We're not one of these companies where you could look on their websites and go, oh, I want 5 Instagrammers with 50,000 followers to promote my watch. Here you go. We don't do that. Everything's done very bespoke, very personal. A lot like was being said before, personal is the way forward. And hopefully that's what people like about Traverse, that we don't do more generic stuff. Let's look a bit more about influence. This is just something really quickly to put on. Traverse was founded in 2012. That actually starts in November 2014, so 5 years ago. And that's just how much people are searching for the term influencer. So you can see it's going up a huge amount. First thing I want to talk to you about very quickly is platforms. As I said, I'm not going to talk through all the slides a great deal, but the first thing we ask people on our surveys, which platforms did you use in 2016 and which you use in 2019 for consuming your content? As you can see, the trends there, they kind of follow briefly what Maka was saying at the start. The ones that are rising, the ones we expected. Blogs are up a lot, Instagram's up a lot. Yeah, interesting. And then we ask people which platforms you use for publishing your content. So this is where we ask you what you're expecting to do in 2020 as well, which is the yellow graph there. This is the summary from these 2 questions. So you know we are summarized. I don't want to do it as we talk through the slides. So influencers consuming content are still massively favoring blogs and Instagram. Pinterest has grown and there's been a steady rise of YouTube. Twitter and Facebook are just staying steady. I think everybody in this industry had Twitter and Facebook then and they still have it now. So that's not to say that these are not great platforms. It's just they're not on the rise among the people we talk to. Snapchat's all but gone. I think 2016 may have been when it was around. It didn't seem to last too long. And the influencers publishing contests still favor blogs and Instagram, but something which was key, and I'm hearing all the time when I speak to people, there are more and more people trying to move away from Instagram, move away from it as being one of their primary platforms, or just more incorporate it into other main content. As you can see, there's been the steady rise of YouTube, and TikTok is the big one, which is looking like it's exploding at the moment. The people that we surveyed are people who have been creating content for a while. They're probably not the typical TikTok people, but if we survey just 1,000 regular people, I'm sure that TikTok will be getting up there with Instagram right now. We also looked at what equipment people are using. This all leads into kind of more of the professionalism side and what people are actually doing. And again, 2016 and 2019. So if you want to take a quick picture, it's fine, but I will be sending this round. What's interesting mostly on this is the more kind of niche specialist equipment, so audio recording devices, gimbals, and drones going up hugely. I know that I've actually bought all 3 of those things in the last 3 years. So yeah, smartphones, I'm going to try it again. Smartphones are still the go-to device, and I don't know if people have played with the new Samsungs and iPhones, but the cameras are incredible. I know a lot of people now are traveling without an SLR and just using those. But cameras for photography are still on the rise, and there's been a lot of an increase, a large increase, as I said, on more niche equipment. We also looked at the skills that content creators have and are looking to get. There were lots of things on this, so I'm just going to go through quickly, but the skills that have been improved the most. So we're asking people here what you've focused on really over the last 3 years, and SEO is the top one. Photography, not surprisingly, looking at the other equipment, is the next one. And you can see the one there, podcasting and audio in the last 3 years, is just not something that we found were looking at, but it's gone up to 5.6% when you look at what people are looking at doing in the next few years. So that's actually, even though 5.6% is still small, it's a rise from 0.8, which is a huge amount more. Videography and pitching being the 2 main ones people are looking to improve. So yeah, as we mentioned there's a lot of SEO, and 9% have been improving website skills, while under 1% were experimenting with podcasting and audio. But now that's up to 5.6, as I mentioned, and 8% are looking at improving their tech skills. Contracts. This is the part that I kind of find the most interesting, because in my job, a lot of it is getting the content creators to actually sign contracts and work in a more professional way with us. I don't know, could we have a show of hands quickly, just people who have worked on any Traverse campaigns? There's quite a few. Thanks for coming. Most of you know that we always get you to do some kind of contract or agreement, whether it's paid or unpaid. That definitely didn't used to be the case for a lot of people. This is the likelihood of signing a contract for an unpaid project or campaign. We don't use the word free because it's not free. It's unpaid. It's very different. But you can see there the differences, the huge differences in the last 3 years. 70% back in 2016 never signed a contract for an unpaid project, whereas that's down to under half now. And around half, once fairly regular all the time, right now are signing contracts even for unpaid campaigns. If there's any brands in the audience who are looking at doing campaigns, always get an agreement. It makes it so much easier. Don't screw around and just hope that people are going to produce stuff. You never know what's going to come in. So this is the likelihood of signing a campaign for a paid project. Amazingly, over half didn't in 2016. I don't know which companies you guys are working with then, but there you go. So yeah, as you can see, the likelihood 55% never had to do it, but that's down to 18% now. So we can see that professionalism is, like, in terms of contracts, is hugely on the rise. And more people are going to be signing contracts and doing specific agreements for their campaigns. So the last thing we looked at over the past is sponsored content. I know this is always a really hot topic, and we're not here to tell you about what's good and what's bad, what you should be doing. That's a discussion for another time. But you will see that back in 2016, it was pretty rare to actually disclose it, and that's changed hugely now, which is fantastic. I know the Advertising Standards Agency have been pushing it, not always that clearly when it comes to you content creators, but at least you're putting something out there. And this is what people are thinking about, how much it has a negative impact. Something that's quite funny when we read these, because the reason I always hear about when people don't disclose it is, oh, because my audience don't like it, my fans don't like it yet. Actually, most people don't feel that way. So this is just the just the stats now. So 85% said their sponsored content doesn't really have any effects on whether people like their posts or not. So this is actually something different from our survey that we put out. So we looked at some content that was produced from a whole bunch of campaigns that we ran. We do about 20 or 30 a year. And we always do reports at 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year after the campaigns that we send over to the brands. It's a very interesting way of looking at how the content grows and the interaction. And we specifically focused on the content that had been produced after 3 months and then reanalyzed that same content at 6 months. So it's the same stuff. And these are really interesting figures when you're looking at the different platforms. Because the kind of engagement and interaction on blogs went up 271% in this period, which is a huge amount. YouTube over 100%, 130, and Instagram is sitting down there on 9%. Very, very little rise. And I know there's a lot of Instagrammers here, and a lot of people who have Instagram, I know I do myself, who can understand exactly what we're looking at there, because how often when you've posted do you look and go, oh, this random person liked something from 3 months ago? It just doesn't really happen. So this is just a really quick bit of data that we just showed you there. I've got about 30 seconds left, so I've got to go through the last bit quite quickly. So this is the next big things, what we see coming up. We asked influencers what they see, and there were so many responses that it really doesn't have the best data that we wanted, but it's still quite interesting what people are expecting to come up. But this is what we think. There's going to be a lot more in long-term quality content being produced. That seems to be completely evident by the way we've been going. Real readership and views, a real interaction. We were talking about not being numbers is exactly the same as what we're seeing and what we're hoping to see more. Long-term relationships with brands and a continued rise of video as we move into 5G. And of course, that higher professionalism as people continue to do that. And then lastly, the increased regulations from the ANSA, more authenticity, which is always a hot topic, audio content. I have no idea really what CGI and avatar influencers are, but apparently they're looking like they're going to be big and popular. So, yeah. I don't know. And of course, the last bit is the micropayments. We're seeing more and more people already using sites like Patreon and Reachable to get through to their contacts. So that's it. I'll take some questions at the end. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck. Sorry, how long was that?
Okay. Perfect. So, can you all hear me well? Yeah? Okay. Hello everybody, my name is Lisa Binderberger. It's a pleasure to stand in front of you today. Last time I was at WTM was around 10 years ago as a young tourism student, so this time it's quite a change. And today I would like to talk to you a bit about what I do with my company, with Boom Creative Lab. We are a social media agency specialized in travel and tourism, and we work a lot with influencers. So during the past 3 years, we worked with over 300 influencers for brands such as Mercedes, Eurowings, the Austrian Travel and Tourism Board, because we are based in Austria, we are based in Salzburg. And yeah, let's take a look. Let's see if this works. So the good news and the definitely not surprising news are the market is getting bigger and bigger. So we are looking at the $2.3 billion industry by 2020. Whenever we look at trends, and that's the session title today, right? What are the trends in influencer marketing and content creation for 2025? There are 3 essentials that we look at. What is the next generation doing? What is the next generation doing? And I'm talking not Generation Z, I'm talking Generation Alpha. What technology are they going to use? We already heard smartphone is still an important gear for influencer content creation, but what technology are they using? We know they have Alexa staying at home. So think about that when it comes to trends a lot. And then what are the world events that are really shaping us, that are really impacting us? I know it's obviously a huge global topic here, but those are the 3 kind of things that really influence trends. Trends are also long-term, so everything I'm going to share with you today is actually quite short-term. We're looking at the next 5 years and things that you can really implement tomorrow for your brand, for your destination. All right, so are you ready for this? We don't have a lot of time. So I have 10 insights with me today, and yeah, let's rush through that. You guys, please let me know, right, when I'm over. Good. The first one, and we kind of tackled that already. Right now, over 80% of influencer marketing is happening on Instagram. This is gonna change. This is gonna change so much. Just a couple of days ago, we did an influencer campaign, and we hired influencers for producing a YouTube video and for doing some Instagram posts, stories. What we knew but the client wasn't aware of is that they are huge on Snapchat, they are on TikTok, they are on Switch, but that didn't play a role to the client, right? So when we see, or when we look at influencer marketing 2025, it's going to be a lot more versatile than today. So Instagram, it's going to shift a little bit. The next big trend is influencers are turning into production companies. We're not talking about one-man shows, we're not talking about one-woman shows anymore. We are talking about videographers, photographers, assistants, booking agencies. That's been popping up a lot, especially for bigger influencers, that you can't directly contact them anymore. You go through an agency. This is going to be the norm in 2025. We predict that voice is becoming so important. We saw already that one of the technologies or one of the gadgets that influencers are using more are audio recordings. This has been completely neglected right now. And we predict that voice is such an essential part when you think about productions 2025. You're thinking about photos, you're thinking about videos, but you're also thinking about podcasts, you're thinking about short audio snippets that will play a role for the campaign. Nano influencers are going to dominate the market. We see huge celebrity influencers popping up, and they've been, we've all worked with them, or big companies have worked with them, but think about it more like athletes. So the big influencers, the celebrities, are going to be like athletes that are really working with brands long term. This is already happening, but I think it's not happening in the tourism industry as much as we see outside of our bubble. So nano influencers are going to dominate the market for sure. Another big trend is going to be B2B influencer marketing. LinkedIn is going to be huge. We're going to see corporate influencers, and on this slide you see Magdalena Rogel, and she works for Microsoft, and she's one of the biggest B2B influencers, in case you didn't know her. So this is going to be part of every B2B marketing strategy, B2B influencers. One of the biggest trends I already see, and I'm going to predict to be happening more and more in 2025, is we're not going to pay influencers anymore for reach. I also don't predict engagement. Yes, we're going to measure it. We're going to measure engagement, we're going to measure reach, but what we really hire influencers for is their purpose, their value. What's the real message they bring across? We're not hiring them anymore for content, per se. Not only photos, not videos, but what are they really standing behind? What do they really, what's their why? Why are they doing that? And I think Greta is a fantastic example for that. Good. I think we're good in time, right? I'm like, whew. How are you feeling? We're on 7, 3 more to go. I'm rushing. No, but the next one, it's for us, it's a little bit no-brainer. A lot of companies already do that, a lot of destinations and brands, but long-term relationships with influencers are so essential. They're so important. They're even more important than today. Think ambassador programs like Canon and Nikon are doing a fantastic job at. Really try to build your audience of trusted influencers that of course fit your brand and nurture the relationship. don't just hire them whenever you need them to produce something. Really nurture it, think about it long term. How can you create an influencer community for your brand? This is going to be so essential, and especially when we look at numbers, because when you see talent, you know, for a young woman, she's doing amazing on Instagram. She started her podcast. She has around 3,000 followers, and you just see that there's talent in there, and you really believe in her. That's the kind of collaborations you should focus on. Of course, they're going to be the big celebrities as well, but that's something, the long-term relationships with talented people, something that really brings you a lot. Yeah, of course. I mean, this has to be in there, right? We're talking 2025 influencer trends. The budgets are going to be bigger. They're going to be a lot bigger. We already heard a talk today from Visit Britain. They started out with no influencer budgets. We're definitely not there anymore. It's going to be increasing. So plan your budget for that. We heard today also in here, on the global stage, about seamless bookable content. That's basically what we heard already today. And that's something that we really predict is going to happen, that social is going to be way more interacted with bookable products. You can already do that now, obviously. You can already put this wonderful link on Instagram, this one link, right, that we have. You can put a bookable product in there, yes. But from our experience with all the campaigns we did, or with all the collaborations we did for destinations and influencers, this hasn't really been part of the storyline. You think so much about inspiration, and we know that Gen Z, we're talking about 8 seconds of attention span here. So when they see a photo, they also want to book it, right? They want to go there, they want to have a fast bookable experience through social. So this is going to be able to, we can implement it in 2025, and this has to happen. We are moving from inspiration way more into booking. And with social commerce getting better and better, this is really one of the really important trends that we see. And the last one, how many minutes do I have? Yeah? Okay. And the last one, it's more on the brand side. Influencer marketing has to move in-house. It feels like a repetition of history, right? When we started with social media marketing, we hired some students, then we hired some interns, we hired some agencies, and then we took it back in-house again because it's blowing up. I mean, this has been there already. So influencer marketing is going to be the same. Right now, there's a lot happening outside of your company, because the expertise hasn't arrived in-house yet. I'm talking majority here, but influencer marketing has to be an essential part of your own knowledge, of your brand know-how. And also it needs to be, I mean, you can't really do long-term relationships, right, if you don't have it in-house as well. So this is something that I really encourage you to move it. I mean, I have an agency, right? It's like, man, why is she saying that? It's like against her business. That's not so smart. But I think agencies are going to be way more inspirational, and they help you, think the whole strategy through, like we see it on social media now. I'm a strong believer that you should run your social media channels and not us. Sorry, not us. Dramatic sound effects here. And we are here for inspiration, and we are here to think the strategy through with you. All right, I'm like done here now. Perfect. I hope this works. Yeah. So for all of you who already took some photos, I summed it up. It's going to be 8 of the most important trends we see. Some people are still taking pictures. Okay. Just gonna step aside. Good. To leave you with one thought, this is really what Boom Creative Lab, what my team stands for, and it's been a pleasure speaking here for you. Good.
So thank you very much to the panel there. Obviously, some really interesting food for thought. I think we'd quite like to dive right into the core of the subject and get the conversation going. I think a lot of people kind of turn up to these type of sessions hoping that there's going to be something controversial that's going to come up. I'm not afraid to pull my punches, so let's ask a tough question straight away. If there was one platform that you think would be dead in 5 years' time, what platform do you think that would be and why? Ben, over to you.
Difficult. I think you see the rise in things like audio platforms and things like that. I think I would agree with the sentiment that within influencer marketing, things like Facebook will no longer be of value in this market. We certainly see, and you look at the industry, there's such shorter watch times. You're talking, people are scrolling through and people are counting in seconds the amount of engagement rather than minutes, or sometimes tens of minutes on podcast or YouTube. So I think although it might still have a role in organising catch up with friends and family in terms of social conversation, I don't think it'll have a place as much in influencer marketing.
Michael, agree, disagree?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you said Facebook's still going to be massive. It's not going anywhere, but yeah, maybe for brands it's dropping off. For me, I honestly, I wish it was Instagram. I'm so fed up with that platform and all the crap on it, but it's not going to go, is it? I think it'll probably be Twitter. For the reason being, I feel that we're completely primed for a truly social network again. Twitter used to be that. It used to be where people had conversations. There isn't one that exists at the moment. I mean, there is Twitter, but not that many people are using it. I think there is a gap there, and once that gets filled by a good new platform, somewhere where people can have an open conversation, they can have searchable phrases and tags and have a nice chat with each other, I think that will kill Twitter off. But it's not there yet, so.
And Lisa, yourself?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's the way how we use the platforms is gonna switch. So we don't post on Facebook anymore, but we're probably gonna be in groups, right? So it's how we use it that's gonna change. But I don't think it's gonna be I don't think the big five are gonna be dead anytime soon.
Guys, just a reminder, we've got Slido up at the moment, so if you'd like to log on, you can send us your questions. We get them on the iPad, and then we can ask them directly. It's probably the quickest way, so if you do have a question, make sure you do that. One thing that's quite interesting is, obviously, as I showed in the opening talk, content creation is on the rise, and always has been year after year. For people who are just starting out, what advice would you give them to a new creator starting out today? Would you say concentrate on one thing? Would you say like diversify? Lisa, if you want to start off on that one.
Yeah. So in terms of content creation, video and audio, I think is the most important content that you really should focus on. But thirdly, you connect yourself with great content creators, right? Build your network. Come to shows like this. That's how you learn the destination side of things, and then also, work on your skills.
I guess you'd agree with creating a tribe as well. You know, being the founder of Traverse.
Yeah. Come to our events, meet some good people. But the one piece of advice I'd give people is to just do something that you love. You will not carry on blogging when you start hating it. It's not that lucrative, it's not that fun, right? So do something that you love, write about or produce video about or take photos about something that you love. I know for me personally, I would rather read an article which has got a load of passion and fun in it about a weekend in Wolverhampton than I would about another generic top 5 things to do in the Maldives. So, if what you're passionate about is, satellite towns of Birmingham, then write about that, make it fun, and people will interact with it, and you'll enjoy doing it. And then the other stuff will come later.
I think I often wind back the clock to when we began 10 years or so ago, and the beauty of what we had was 4 of us, and therefore if any one of us began saying or acting or doing something on or off camera that wasn't as we knew ourselves as friends of 20 years, you're like, why are you saying that's not you? All you can ever be is your authentic self, and that will begin perhaps as a very small vlogger with one device, and that might grow into a team, but whatever you do, you have to maintain that authenticity. we always go back to what YouTube is. It's the you part of YouTube. Even though there's now countless brands on there, the ones that do connect are the ones that have that still friendship vibe at the center of it. And I think as long as you remain honest to that, then even starting now, you still have a chance.
Great. We've got loads of questions here, so we're going to try and fire through a few of them. What do you think about dealing with managers over direct relationships with influencers? I guess it's more for you two.
You want to start? Or
I think I'm a bunch of arseholes, to be quite honest.
Sense of that.
I don't love it. My problem with managers and agents is that they're purely, this is generalization, but they're purely motivated by the financial side, which means you can come up with this really fantastic idea and they come back going, that's 3 Instagram photos and 1 blog post and it's going to be this amount of money. Whereas when you talk to someone directly, you can be like, look, this sort of budget we're working with, what do you think? And you can work on something really creative together. You lose that process when you work with a manager and agent. And to be honest, we haven't, as Traverse, really worked with anybody who has managed agents in the last year or so. And I know a lot of other agencies who are going the same way because it's too bloody painful. So that's how I feel.
Can I just add one thing to that as a content creator? It's exactly what you said, Lisa, is they are becoming production companies in themselves. And when you can forge that direct relationship with a brand, who can come to you with a problem or a campaign or an issue they have they're trying to transition around or a message they're trying to get out there, whether it's awareness or whatever, and obviously a budget of what we can do within the parameters, then without having people in the way sounds unfair, but in the middle of that, then those content creators who have the team around us, and I speak from Sorted's point of view, there's 15 of us, we have people who account manage and everything is done professionally, and we have producers and editors, and rather than you as a brand having a creative agency, a production agency, then having a talent fee via a manager, and then having a media spend agency, like that's what we do. And that's what we have done for a long time. And if you can get that relationship, then you get such better results without it being passed down and sometimes being lost in translation.
This question here, I feel, is a very difficult one to answer, but I think you've already tapped up on it briefly. How to stand out as a travel influencer since there are already millions of content creators out there? I'm guessing it's all about authenticity again, creating top quality content. Do you agree with all of that?
Yeah. I think the beauty of kind of the lost and hungry rules for us is that you won't stand out if you're doing the same things that Google will provide as a top 10 because everyone's done them. So for us, it's about asking locals, tapping into the community. We use platforms actually like Twitter quite well for that, for sort of real-time engagement, the community tab on YouTube, and then you get everything. You do get the cliches. I say if you're coming to London, you absolutely should do an afternoon tea. But it is also a cliche, but you should do it because it's excellent. But what do Londoners do on a Wednesday and a Thursday night? That's the bit you want to be experiencing. And if you can, and the beauty of what we can with our community to some extent is even down a micro level, what are Londoners cooking inside of their homes, with their families, with their friends, and actually you get the whole range, and that's how potentially you tell better stories and stand out from the same top 10 that everyone's doing.
Following on from that, Lisa, as well, how are you finding kind of nano and micro influencers to work with? Because we all know about the massive accounts of millions. Is it a lot harder to find ones with just 5,000 followers?
I wouldn't say it's harder. I mean, we are lucky because we built a good network already. So that's been really helpful. But also reaching out to them again and asking, which content creators do you really admire? Which content creators do you really like to hang out with? So really, we used and we still use all those influencer tools where you monitor the accounts and see whether the numbers add up, but we are moving away from that more and more and really go I'm gonna put the word of mouth style, really asking the nano influencers that we know to give us some suggestions and how other creators they like. And
just something I would add to that as well from we've done quite a few projects where we worked with large groups of nano influencers. Something that we learn is every time we do it, we find more people that we don't want to work with than ones that we do. If you find yourself in that kind of stage of starting to hear from occasional brands and agencies, just don't act like a dick because you won't get a second chance. There's so many people on our list now that we're not going to bother because there's more people out there. So word of mouth helps. And then when you actually speak to them, you get a nice reply, something positive. It's great, but if not, you're done.
Yeah, you get a reply, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah, if you work with agencies or influence agencies, that's something, it's so disconnected. Adding to the question from before, this is something that, it's supposed to be more professional, but what we find is it takes so much more time and it costs a lot more also.
On the subject of money, a couple of people are very interested to hear how Sorted make their money. Are you open with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a journey over 10 years, and I wouldn't say the money's ever been there from day one. But it's a combination of things from advertising on YouTube, brand and partner sponsorships, and to Lisa's point, the best ones are those that are long-term partnerships that last, because what you then have as an influencer or as a content creator or as a production team with 15 people is you have the security to build out and nurture the audience and do something right, rather than hand to mouth, here's one video here, here's one project here, and here's a message we're going to try and wrap up, but our audience, and we turn down so many more partnerships than we accept, because we'd much rather work with a handful of people for a long time, and with that comes a higher price tag. So I think brand partnerships is a big one. Other events, whether it's cooking demonstrations and speaker fees and things like that, but primarily it's working with brand partners. The element we've added on in the last year is a sponsorship model as well, a membership model as well, so giving the option, not that we've taken anything away from the public channels that we do, but the option that those who have been engaged with us for a long time, and some people speak to us on social media more regularly than their own decade-old friends, they will commit to a monthly subscription and have access to all the other content that we do behind a paywall as well. So cookbooks, inspiration, podcasts, the Sorted Eat app, so that everywhere you travel that we've been, you can have the same experiences because you're tapping into that community. So there is a membership element to it, but I would say predominantly it's working with big forward-thinking brands who have the budgets to unlock opportunity beyond just here's a campaign for next month, but here's a challenge we want to try and work with you on for, and we've had in over the years, Kenwood as an example, an 8-year partnership, and they are as integral to our kitchen as the 4 of us on screen.
Yeah, I think with long-term partnerships, and it's great that you pointed out as well, is that the big problem we see in the tourism industry is that all the budgets are tied to 1 year. And it's so counterproductive, because you really need to think, I mean, when you have a budget for a year, how can you think long-term, right? So really trying to add that in there when you think about the future is so important.
I think with the whole conversation about money, I mean, I've been a content creator, for the past 5-6 years, and when I see conversations online now, so many people are coming in saying, I've been blogging for 6 months and I haven't made a penny yet. Why aren't I making money? And we were saying earlier, you do this for a passion, whether that's telling stories about food, about travel, about a certain lifestyle. And I think if you're in the content creation industry to make money from the word go, you're going to struggle, because that's not what this industry is about. It's about sharing a shared passion. And I think it really reflects in terms of the content that you're creating, the authenticity, which is very transparent. And then obviously, if you get that right, the long-term partnerships kind of come from that.
I would say, just add on that, it's also the biggest turn-off from a brand or a brand or an agency. If you contact someone about this amazing project and you do have budget, and they come back and the first thing is, how much are you going to pay me? That's the way that I'm thinking. Is that, if that's the most important thing to them over their own content, then we're going to move on to the next person.
Obviously, audio search has become such a big thing. Do you see any other audio content platforms taking the industry by storm, other than podcasts? Is there anything else that you can think about that you'd suggest or recommend?
I mean, one thing, again, going back to long-form content of sort of 15 minutes or so on YouTube, we've seen a huge increase in views on smart TVs. And not forgetting that YouTube is the world's 2nd largest search engine after Google. There are lots of people who are using smart TVs and the voice activation there to search for content. More so if it is long form, and destination marketing tends to be longer form and tell richer stories. But we're seeing huge increase in voice search on things like smart TVs.
This one is more for Ben and I. Someone says, how quickly would you adapt with a new content platform? Are you looking at using TikTok, or are you waiting for things to become more popular before using them?
I think We have actively chosen not just to jump on those just yet, because for us, we are more about nurturing the relationship we have on the platforms they already are. There is an audience to be had there for sure, but what we're not prepared to do is step into them and forge our way into that. I think it's a bit like, and I always come back to the sense of, forgive me for the repetition, but if you're sat there in a pub and you've got your mates around the pub table and a guy with a really big sparkly jacket walks in and starts shouting at the bar, no one really wants to go over and join them. They're already in their group of friends, and that's where you have the real value. So for us, it will eventually, these platforms will showcase, and we may move across to them if our audience and our community kind of want us to and there's a place for it, but we won't just jump because of it, because invariably you'll need big budgets to reach those new audiences, and we prefer not to buy. We use the organic route.
And it's also hard to divide your time up. I mean, you're already thinking, I want to create this video or this blog post. All of a sudden, you've got to invest a huge amount of time on a new platform that you might not work. I mean, it's difficult working out where to focus,
where
right?
the priorities are, for sure.
Yeah. This question here I absolutely love. So yeah, will there be a larger gap between what a consumer and a content creator can do in the next 5 years, given the rising cost of technology? What do you think about that?
I disagree that technology cost is rising.
Mm-hmm.
I think 10 years ago, you would have had to spend £10,000 to do what I can do on my Samsung S9. Even drones are coming cheaper. So I don't know, I think maybe the super top level is, what I actually think maybe the person who wrote that might be seeing is maybe they're getting more exposure to professional people and they're seeing them with their £20,000 DSLR setups. Personally, I think you can do a hell of a lot more now with what's in your pocket than what you could 5 years ago.
Unless I'm misinterpreting that question, unless you're saying, how can the everyday consumer reenact the experiences of content creators who often have a lot better access and ability? And I think that was something we definitely saw maybe 18 months ago, was constantly people saying, you guys are London based, we're coming to London with us on holiday or for a weekend, or we live here, but where are the best places to go and eat and experience great food in London? And we got that time and time again. And the beauty is we would always have this engagement with our audience. We would answer time and time again. And that's what triggered us to create the Sorted Eat app, because we wanted to have this place. When we walk in as a team and we've got cameras into great food markets, restaurants, we tend to get treated very, very well. And it got to the point where that was beginning to feel a bit uncomfortable, because what we really want to do is find a way of passing that generosity and hospitality onto the people who've got us to where we are, the community. And that's what the Sorted Eat app does. It's kind of like, if you're part of the Sorted Club, you also have access to, here are the 10 best restaurants in Edinburgh, and they all know, and we know that we own the owner's first name terms, they're all independent places, and when you show them you're part of the Sorted Club, they'll treat you like a local, like they did with us. So I think it's about making that effectiveness more accessible in the real world, if that's what that question meant. I'm not sure.
It was a good answer regardless.
I also would add that please don't get hung up on technology. If you look at the content, and we heard TikTok before, it's not high-end content. I mean, the majority is recorded on your phone, and if you think you need a big equipment, forget it. Start creating content that really moves an audience. Look into TikTok. I would say you don't have to have the big strategy behind it, but you need to understand how the content works, how it's so different to Instagram stories or to regular posts. TikTok is really a new form of content creation with all the challenges, and get yourself in there, be curious, try it out, and then see where it goes. So that's really important.
I think we have time for just one more question, but if you have a chance to create a new social media platform after seeing all the others out there, how would it be your particular platform? Lisa, you're smiling the most, so I'm going to ask you first. Creating your own social network.
I'm kind of inspired by the question before about, is there an audio app out there or a social media platform? So I think that would be something super interesting, to create an app that has audio snippets. So not long-term podcasts, but creating audio snippets with visual video content. This mixture is something that I would be highly interested in. What about you?
I'd like to have a platform that kind of brings back authenticity. Instagram used to be instant. where the Insta comes from, right? But it's not, because you can chuck on a billion filters and upload pictures that you spent 2 days editing. So I'd like to see a photography or video app, which you can also put text and stuff on, which you have to use the inbuilt camera for. So you have to just take a picture and put it up straight away, not I'm editing this for 3 days and look how many birds I put in the sky. Have that real connection back.
I also think something that uses audio clips and short snippets, but from a functional point of view. When I was traveling in Hong Kong recently, and a friend of mine suggested a few places to go off the beaten track, and luckily he spoke Cantonese, and he would send me little voice clips on WhatsApp so that I could desperately try and learn that little snippet to order like a local, and I'd always give it a go, and generally after the confusion on their face, I was actually able to play the voice clip, and then they'd giggle and laugh and realise what I was trying to say, but they would instantly, their shoulders would drop and they would realise that there was an opportunity there. That was their signature dish that isn't even on the menu, but everyone kind of knows. And instantly that connection was like, that was the locality of it. And I think something that unlocks that real local vibe through audio clips, I think could also be really interesting to beat language barriers.
And I think I'm going to jump years and years into the future and create a virtual reality headset that you wear, and then you can go to Bora Bora Beach and hang out with other people there and make your own little pina colada at home and just chat and be in situ in the destination.
That would be excellent in education.
It'd be great. I mean, I'm there already.
French lessons at school would be so much better if you could virtually walk around a market and actually pick up items and speak to the marketer, yeah.
Agree. Guys, we've run out of time now, and I think probably people are quite hungry for some lunch as well. Can we have a huge round of applause for all the panelists who have been fantastic today? We'll hang around afterwards for a couple more questions, and thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.